Welcome back to the Valor Flight Crew podcast, hosted by Echo and brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and Vertical Valor magazine. In this episode, we sit down with two incredible clinicians from Boston MedFlight, Jamie Eastman and Widmac Laterion, or WID. Together, they take us inside the daily mission and operations of one of the nation's most respected critical care transport programs. From the challenges of neonatal and pediatric transports to the transition from military service into civilian medicine, Jamie and Wid share amazing insights from their unique journeys. You'll hear about the training and preparation that keep their teams ready for the most complex cases, and including high-fidelity simulations, rigorous onboarding, and the importance of crew resource management. We'll also explore Boston MedFlight's transition to the Airbus H145 D3 and how this advanced airframe helps them deliver safe, effective care to the most critically ill and injured patients. Along the way, our guests reflect on some memorable missions, collaboration across the Massachusetts healthcare systems, and what it means to be part of a program dedicated to the highest standards of patient care. Thanks so much for tuning in, and let's get into it. Thank you to our sponsors, Spectrum Aeromed, Copter Safety, and Airbus.
Welcome to the Valor Flight Crew podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and Vertical Valor magazine. Produced in partnership with Echo, Every Coast Helicopter Operations, the Valor Flight Crew podcast promotes the personnel and life-saving equipment behind helicopter air ambulance services. Join hosts Mike Fideli and Blake Schreider for in-depth interviews and expert insights from air medical personnel, pilots, communication specialists, and maintenance crews who play critical roles in airborne emergency response.
Line 1 accepting.
Copy, line 1, gotcha, accepting. You're going to be talking to Red Feather 1 on LCEMS.
When I think of the conventional transports that I do, it's nowhere even near that level of stress and that level of specialty and that level of care. And so like that, Mike, like you said, you'd love to see my face if I was confronted with that type of patient.
Just once. I have no doubt you'd be able to adapt and overcome, Blake. But
I'm up for the challenge.
I would just
right?
like to see the deer in the headlights look.
Oh gosh, I'm having anxiety just thinking about it right now. No, when you put all that together, like how do you train for that? So like, I think of my annual training, right? And you guys do it quarterly for these type of in-person high fidelity simulations. And how do you do and bringing people in to do these things 4 times a year? So how do you train for that? What does that look like? Where do you start?
Yeah, so part of the deal, right, on your orientation, right, your 16-week orientation is a lot of high fidelity simulation. We're blessed to have our own simulation lab with multiple mannequins of all age groups. There's hospital beds, ER beds in there. There's giraffe formers in there. And we have mannequins who've had a while that can take abuse from the sim team. And then ones that, all the things, you can get a blood sugar on them, intubate them, all that stuff. They talk and tell you their history and all that. So we're very fortunate and blessed to have that. And that care is with you, right? So your quarterly requirements, like I said, this last quarter was that neonatal simulation where we really did crawl, walk, and then allowed you to run afterwards kind of a sim where it was really, this is the sick you're going to see in this patient population. Let's do it nice and slow together. Where other simulations have been, there's an overturned golf cart in the ambulance garage, all blacked out in there. You got to split the team and you have a 20-minute ETA for the helicopter. Go. So it kind of depends on, being able to do it slow, methodical, the 3-hour bedside time you expect for the baby versus the, hey, we're in the rural area with limited resources and you can't transport yet, despite this patient needing an OR yesterday. So it's really cool to be able to have that budgeted and funded. With the consortium, we're so blessed for that, and we try and push the ball forward every time. So I think we'll be outside of the quarter by the time we publish it, so don't be surprised for folks. But the OB sim this quarter, again, like I said, was a pregnant mom car crash. The crew walks in the door of the sim lab to simulate this rural ER, and the baby comes out. So they have to split the team where one helps the nurse and the doc participate mom, and then the other crew member has to go meet.
Sounds awful.
Right? I mean, but the reality, and my joke for the sim lab is it's farmers insurance. We know a thing because we've seen a thing or two, right?
Right.
Anyway, but that's our joke, because all these simulations have been on calls we've been on.
Right.
Called to Nantucket for a somewhat stable patient, adult. You walk in, go up to the OB floor. Baby is 25 weeks and needs some help. So it's kind of the case.
I will never forget the time that we got called to go for a neonatal transport, and when we got there is when we found out that the baby has not delivered yet. We're waiting for you to get here to do the section because they wanted us to be the delivery team. Right. And I'm like, you were supposed to already have this kid stabilized by now, and now you're wanting me to go in the OR with you.
Yeah.
Like it's never fails to amaze me.
And a lot of times people think too that the sims are made up, but all of the sims are real life cases. Even some of the interactions, like, do you guys work 24s? And then like a new hire will come back and be like, someone just asked me that in a scene call with like a dying patient. I was like, if that's why it's put into the sims, because like it's a level of stress that isn't made up. Like that you're gonna encounter, and you're like, are you serious right now?
Yeah. Well, I love that you guys do such intensive training for those specific scenarios. And I think back, like, specifically in the neonatal medicine side of things, like neonatal medicine is an entirely different ballgame. It's an entirely different mindset, is an entirely different way that you approach every single patient that you have in the neonatal world compared to your pediatric and adult patients. And so I think back to like when I started at my program, and like I did a couple shifts in the NICU to kind of follow the nurses around there. And then I just went on transports with my preceptors and got experience going through that. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way here. Like, I don't feel prepared to take care of neonates. I had zero neonatal experience going in, and I knew that was going to be a learning curve for me. But to be able to have those very directed simulations and training along the way, like I think back and I'm like, man, like that would have been amazing to have some of those things. So, kudos to you guys for doing all of that intensive training. And not to say that my orientation wasn't good for neonatal. It's not at all what I'm going for, but like, things have changed so much to be able to provide this high fidelity, simulation and training to some of our most specific patient populations. And kudos to you guys for doing that.
I think there's educators that are probably going to be listening to this that are definitely taking notes on some of the next scenarios that are going to get thrown out there now.
Oh, 100%.
It's going to happen. It's
100%.
Sorry, points to over SOP with sims.
So, okay, so now we've moved on from training now. So now it's real life, right? So you've done all this training for these neonates, so I know when we had previously kind of talked coming up to this podcast, some of these patient transports that stand out in your mind. So either Whit or Jamie, which can you tell us a little bit about one of those calls that just kind of stands out where you were really tasked with a critical patient, and how you guys could relate, the training, the type of aircraft that you have, how that helped you guys be successful with that patient?
Yeah. So both of our stories are pretty similar. So we'll leave it at that. But again, back to this, 9 or so level 3 NICUs, places that can do high frequency oscillator, right? Places that can do metric. They're no slouch. They just can't do it.
Right.
So we're going, 60, 90-minute flights each direction. Sometimes with rooftop pads, sometimes with ground leg, right? Landing at level 3 NICUs, which is the Global Trauma Center, large facilities, right?
Right.
But these sick as crap 2-3-day-olds who were getting progressively worse, escalating care. Oh crap! Now we need ECMO. So the one that kind of sticks to me is what I built the sim off of. Literally, I copied and pasted the chart, took out the names. A 3-day-old applying aspiration turned baby that was intubated up in northern Maine, Bangalore, right, Northern Lights Medical Center. So a 90-minute flight for us each way. And on nitrogen, on high frequency, triple pressed, sedation, neuromuscular blockade, getting antibiotics, all this stuff, and having to be transitioned back to conventional ventilator setting, multiple blood gases trying to hold the place, send the Hail Mary and send it south 90 minutes. Being halfway through the flight and realizing the weather changed faster than we thought. Now we're 30 miles over the Atlantic Ocean, and our flight's now 2.5 hours back to Boston. Thank God for the bag of gas. So those are the kind of missions that really, that was a 6-hour mission all in all. Most of that being the flying, believe it or not, with a long flight time. So that's kind of the gist. And, and it's nothing to say, like I said, these are not slouch NICUs. These are folks that can do all the things, have all the resources except the ECMO. And they're going to that level 4, if you will, a cardiac/ECMO facility at Boston Children's. And you get a lot of involvement with that kind of all over all the 6 states. So.
And then, coming along with that, something that you kind of mentioned when we were talking about this, not only is it the high stress that you're taking care of the patient, but, you're bringing the NICU, this little baby, and then are you able to bring the parent? Can you bring that parent along with their child? And then it's that other added stress that they are entrusting you to take care of their newborn, right?
We try to, if mom is still a patient in the hospital, that's a logistical hold up. Usually mom has to come, but a lot of times we'll bring the second parent, either mom too or dad. We try our best to do that. Absolutely. Even if we're hesitating, right? They're your option as long as it's safe for them and for us.
So Whit, how about that memorable mission for you? I know Jamie said it was kind of similar, but something in your career that really stands out as one of those calls that really made an impact or a lasting impression on you.
Yeah, so that, like Jamie said, a very similar call to the same region. This one, Children's has their own critical care transport team as well too. They do ground transport. But sometimes if that patient's going back to Children's based off of the complexity of the patient, and also they might have gotten full story beforehand, the hospital might request that we take one of those transport members with us as well too. So this one we flew up, stopped by Children's, picked them up, or Brigham because Children's doesn't have a helipad. Picked them up and then went up north. This patient we ended up leaving on 9 trips, but walked in, sat in 17, map of 20, and they had.
I'm sorry, what did you say the SAT was?
Yeah, SAT of 17 with good pleth, completely modeled.
Wow.
Arrest, and he was like, all right, we'll take the story in a second, but it's like all hands on deck to like not be doing it soon. But on that call, the transport nurse had actually talked to the sending nurse ahead of time, the provider, and had them trial handbagging or conventional vent settings prior to us getting there. And that was what had gone south. So they ended up trialing it out, and the patient really, really liked the high flow oscillator or high frequency oscillator. So the kid did not do well off of that. So on top of addressing the hemodynamics, with that, we also had to address the vent stuff on the back end as well too. So that ended up being one of those cases where we were really happy to, again, with all of the training, can you do those calls like with the two of us 100%? But sometimes having another set of hands who kind of know how we operate and looking for is very useful as well too. So they were able to be on the phone while my partner and I were able to be inside the room doing some of the resuscitation and kind of just brainstorming that way. So I didn't have to have my AirPods in. But that was one of those calls where it's 4 hours bedside time. And like I said, we ended up adding more pressors, taking some stuff off as well too. Everything might have been impacting it, but getting the kid on nitrate, starting prostaglandins as well too. And the other part that helped was the transport nurse also had their pumps as well. So we had maxed out our pumps and it helped having 3 additional pumps as well too in that situation.
Thanks to our sponsor, Copter Safety. Based in Finland, Copter Safety is the leading, globally approved simulator training center. They provide a full range of courses for AW139, AW169, H125, and H145 pilots. Customize your special missions training with realistic visuals and specialized instructors. Stay one step ahead of reality with Copter Safety.
That was one of those calls where, again, looking at all of the equipment we fit into there, I was very thankful to just be able to go in the aircraft and be like, we're going to lift, right? Like, we're not going to do all of this work getting the aircraft, and then you get 10 feet above the helipad and you're coming back down. Now you have to figure this out by one or bring the patient back in. And but we got the patient to to the receiving hospital with a map of 90 or map of 50s and a SAT of 98. And it was like one of those rare things that never happens, but like having the whole floor clap when you like are leaving, it felt like a movie almost. But then we stopped after I got home and I was like, oh, I'm beat.
Mentally and physically exhausted.
This was probably hands down the most exhausting call I think I've done. I've done some pretty bad calls, but usually they're pretty easy, especially if it's the adults who like to do the stuff and go. But I got home and I was just like, just sat on the couch for a minute to decompress, and I was like, oh man, this is an heavy.
And then you have the charting to look forward to.
Yeah. That was good. Luckily, we have tablets that we can take with us in airplane mode and do offline charting, so that like helps a little bit with not getting out an additional 2 hours late. But it definitely, the charting is a whole other aspect that they could do a whole podcast about. So,
oh yes,
it's on the horizon, maybe.
And so you mentioned being, thankful for the aircraft, and you being sure that you're going to be able to lift and be able to complete the mission. If I recall correctly, you guys recently are transitioned to or you're in the process of transitioning all of your aircraft to the H145 D3s. I was just wondering if you can kind of give us an update on that, and why has that aircraft been such an integral part of your overall mission? How does that really help you guys complete things on a daily basis?
Sure. Yeah. Sorry. So we fully can transition all 7 of our rotors are that H145 D3. And I think it just rounds out what we've been saying with the mission set that we can do a 10-minute, 15-minute transport, trauma or STEMI or something, hop hospital or scene. But we're also doing that 90-minute isolate with another crewman from another organization, their backpacks, a parent, and a 90+ minute flight. So the range is phenomenal for that. And just look at my quick notes here. That's a full bag of gas, if you will. With that, we have about 3 hours and 35 minutes VFR on a tank of gas, or about 403 miles, which is phenomenal for us to be able to get those missions to have that reach in our region. It is in a sense. So, we did have the Sikorsky airframe years ago. That was really what we did those longer missions for. But trying to maintain a fleet of those with all the parts that go with that, no pun intended, just wasn't feasible. So being able to standardize the fleet to one type of rotor airframe that is all the same helps us logistically, helps us maintenance wise, and really helps us with the longer range missions where we're doing these specialty situations of heavier type patients.
And I'm sure having that kind of standardization is also takes care of the front of the aircraft. It's makes the pilots happy, right? That aircraft is very capable with all the technology that's out there. So I can only assume that your pilots are very happy with this type of aircraft.
Yeah, even just adding that 5th blade, which is the biggest conversion there, and like all of a sudden you have 200 kilos extra lift, right? Where like now your larger patients, or again, the weight isn't the limiting factor. It's more just, can you fit it all in the aircraft and be functional? Which I think is, again, coming from a really, really big aircraft that has nothing but power to a tiny aircraft that was very limited in power. It's nice to see a model like this that can allow us to go out and do the job. And sure, we're not transporting 6 patients in the back, right? But you can still have the lift that's needed with it. And the other part with the pilots is like the standardization is like, if you have an EC component, right, or another aircraft, now they have to maintain their minimums on both of those airframes, right? So making sure that like now having that one aircraft, all the minimums are all pretty much across the board a bit easier to maintain, I would imagine. And for the maintenance folks as well too, who when you walk in and you see them going at it every day on maintaining those aircrafts and keeping us up in the sky, I'm sure that makes their lives easier too, to not have to be cross-trained on multiple different airframes as well too. Because I am not a maintainer, and I could not imagine how much more work that would be having to do multiple airframes.
Multiple airframes, yeah.
And then you think about, the safety aspect of it, not just the safety up front, but the safety in the back, always having that muscle memory of where the piece of equipment is that you need at that particular time, or the muscle memory for your pilots up front of knowing exactly, how the cockpit is set up and laid out, so that it becomes that muscle memory when you do get into those situations where you need it. Like I think across the board, that standardization is something that's extremely important. We're working towards doing that in my program now, and that's always been one of those points of contention with the crews is we want standardization and all of these things for a multitude of reasons. So it's impressive these guys were able to go take care of all 7 bases to move to that D3 model and actually have that standardization fleet wide and really make that accessible for everybody. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the other benefit, and again, the being fortunate to have the consortium. So we have the 5 operating bases. Then one aircraft typically is getting their in-depth maintenance. Then there's always a backup aircraft as well too. So if an aircraft does have a last-minute problem, you don't put the base down, right? Because it's just like shuttling the pilot up or flying that aircraft down and getting it in service so that their downtime is minimized as much as it can be, and obviously there are programs out there where you have one aircraft and your aircraft has something that happens, you're done. Just think for that whole region doesn't have that asset available. So being able to have that and sustain service as much as possible really goes back into MedFlight's mission and making sure that our airframe is always available.
I was going to say, you're doing a lot of IFR flying with that as well then? I'm sure not so much in the wintertime, but...
Yeah.
Good. So depending on the time of the year, yes. All of our pilots, regardless of what their prior experience are, usually their first year, they won't get IFR released. So they do VFR for most of the time, but there's always circulating bases obviously that can do IFR. And that's really just because a lot of our pilots are ex-military, or they get reacclimated to flying in our area, but also flying in Bravo airspace. And on top of, if you were an assault pilot, right? Sure, you can get the aircraft off the ground, but are you used to follow the medical talk that's going in the background as well too, and being able to filter that out? And they come in on every call with us to help us out as well too. Not always clinically, but some of the pilots know the bags as well as we do, and we can be like, hey, can you grab this, right? So I think that not having to focus about the IFR takes off that layer of stress until they really acclimate, and then if they've situated themselves into place, then they've released them. So it doesn't matter if the person flying was the stance pilot at the last place that they had been at, they still get the benefit of coming in as a brand new person to a system, and then kind of relearning some of the ways we do things from the ground up as well too, regardless of their fire experience.
Yeah, and it's huge. And it comes to the military part from us is more we're standardization across the entire U.S. Army, active duty, National Guard, Reserve, right? So I get in this Black Hawk medevac, that bag is in the same spot for the most part, right? That's how it's supposed to be. So we kind of do our best to translate that here. It's not always the case, but 99.9997% of the aviation side, the medical side, the logistics side of the 7 airframe are standardized so that if I work a shift tonight at this base and then I work another shift the night following that at a different base, they're the exact same spot. It's not this base has, the blue bag here and the orange bag lives there at the other base. It's standardized across the fleet. And I think that pays dividends, not just to our ability to perform, but also safety. And that, you kind of mentioned, hey, if I'm sitting in this seat, it's the same amount of procedure in all 7 aircraft. If we over water, God forbid, or whatever else, it's going to be muscle memory how we respond.
And I think it's great that you guys have such a regimented training and orientation program as well. And it covers not only just med crew and the pilots to get accustomed to how you guys are able to accomplish your mission. And so I think that it really is such a all hands on deck where every crew member is an integral part of that patient's care, whether they're flying or right bedside, titrating meds or doing something. It really shows that it really takes that whole team effort and approach to really get that patient to where they need to go and quickly. And I think it's such a great testament to what you guys bring to the table for care. I think it's amazing.
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
And I'm also curious, talking about the whole safety aspect of things and having standardized fleet for both the medical crew and for the pilots. I'm curious across each of the individual modalities, so whether it be ground, rotor, or fixed, to talk about your crew resource management. Is that something that's also pretty standardized across all of those vehicles, or is that something that is very specific to the vehicle that you happen to be in? And what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so I'd say the answer is yes. It doesn't matter who you are, what your role is. Like, everyone has an equal say on the safety aspect of things, right? So if we're on the ground truck, our EMT is the PC, right? So like, if our EMT says like, hey, it's not really looking great out, we probably shouldn't go out in this. Like, we're not like, no, get us to the call, right? Like, we're going to stop, do a hard pause and reevaluate, or just stop because someone said no, just like you would in the airframe as well too. Because I mean, more often than not, I'm more scared of getting in a truck sometimes because of like, the roads out there, the conditions than an aircraft. So,
and all the other drivers.
Yeah, that was yeah. But yeah, sometimes like the road's a lot more dangerous than flying in the air is. So yeah, the CRM aspect, we do an annual training every single year. Our safety group has hired the CRM group to come every single year and do a CRM presentation for every single person who works at the agency, whether you're a comp spec, EMT, pilot, or crew or clinical crew. And they kind of mangle everyone together in that class, so you can kind of like put all of that out there. So if there is something unsafe that had started to kind of present itself, you get kind of, I mean, one, it would have gotten presented well before then to begin with, but you get to kind of talk about it as well too. So like the buy-in on the CRM and the just culture is definitely huge in this
awesome.
Our organization.
So when you guys are, you guys decided on using the 145 and the D3 in designing it and the layout and everything, who can you elaborate how you guys were able to set that up? Like, who did you have a committee for that? Was it just certain people, or how were you guys able to not only just kind of decide on the 145 D3, but like how you would get things laid out and how you would standardize it? Was it everybody, just a few select people? Who was involved in kind of setting that up?
Yeah, for sure. So kind of like you mentioned, the decisions of like purchase and sales and, 10-year plans is way above our level, right? That's done at the organization level up in the C offices, right? But the actual execution of it looks like is pilots, right? So weight and balance, obviously, is a huge thing for everyone. It's continuously reassessed for us as we find that this pelleting case is unnecessary. We're going to switch to this soft case. I need a pelleting case for this tool now because it's testy, right? You get the idea. It's done by, we have a committee of multi-purpose, of pilots, even mechanics, the crew that meet under the operations umbrella, right? To be able to make these decisions and continuously reassessed. And I want to say quarterly meetings at minimum, just to make sure that we're doing what's up the most up-to-date thing. The weight balance is the most that it can be, and that we're doing the right thing. Things that have thrown us off balance, if you will, is funny enough, hiring some really, really fit smaller pilots and having dudes my size in the back. I'm having a seat to sit at sometimes. They're not in a helicopter size. It's still important.
Yeah.
That's how serious we take it. Hey, Jamie, I need you to sit in a forward-facing seat because I'm literally half your weight. Versus, we have the Lucas, right? So we carry the Lucas on board the aircraft now as well, in an attempt to, give the patients a better chance that may be a candidate for ECTR, right? That we wouldn't have been obese for. We would have, we're go by ground to you, the hospital. We're not going to transport this patient. Now we have that capability to bring that as well. So again, this large airframe that can do more. We can leave the Lucas on the aircraft full time, which is usually add on last minute out the door for a lot of other services. We're blessed with that as well with this airframe.
Which, I mean, the Lucas is what, another 30 pounds, 25, 30 pounds of weight.
Which can help to balance out the... So a lot of times we're like, hey, I need you to move the Lucas up here.
Put the Lucas up front.
It's out of there. The other thing too is when the aircrafts are newly purchased, they go through Metro for outfitting. So we have our own Part 135, but obviously Metro is the mecca, right? Hence. So once the aircraft gets purchased, based off what the committee wanted and what might have gotten changed or needs to get changed, they make notes of that, and then it goes through Metro to get the medical interior and whatnot.
Right.
So that it ends up being pretty standardized across the board too, because they're our one provider or our one vendor
Right.
making those changes as well.
We're also fortunate to realize if you get it wrong, right? So right now, I did tell you a lot of you, actually we're 6 for 7. So one of the aircraft, the locks org is behind the pilot versus under the middle cabinet. And we realized that puts the rear facing seat behind the pilot way too far forward and is a logistical situation that we didn't plan for. And that was the kind of, oh no, that was supposed to be the answer to our problems and it wasn't. So now that is something that we realized, and the helicopter since then have been phased out. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make that swap with it. So it's one of those things, okay, we realized the hard way, but that follow-on airframe, we're going to go back this other style because that's probably easier logistically, probably a little bit safer as well. But the organization supports that, hey, we take on the chin, we're, hey, you got it wrong. Let's move forward and we'll phase it out when we can.
Sure.
I think that's huge for us as well to see those, and that the company's able to admit fault, or not fault, but admit that, hey, we didn't get it right this time.
Right.
Kind of over the case,
Yeah, well, I think, we've talked about some of this a little bit on some of the other podcasts, but it's like if there's one thing we're good at Med Crew, like it's taking this, 40-pound bag and putting 80 pounds of crap in it.
Oh.
And we always have to we always want to put more and do more and carry more and have all these extra resources. And so you kind of need to go through that whole process, right? To make sure that you're carrying, the things that cover most of your missions. And thankfully having a larger airframe, you guys are able to be prepared for most of those, even specialty things along the way that you can kind of transition easily from one to the next and not have to really change your whole practice.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of our managers always says it's like managing the Super Bowl of like medicine, right? Because you have all of these high functioning type A individuals who's like,
Oh yeah,
it works this way, like this, and trying to get everyone reeled in and corralled to being like, all right, maybe like I'll carry my pouch with me and I'll keep the things I want to have on the call that I think are really essential if something goes bad in my own part. For not changing the bag itself is huge. But I definitely applaud our management team to be able to get us all to like compromise enough in different ways to not overstuff everything or change the dynamics of every single bag layout just for that shift and then leave it for the next shift to then to like reconfigure and stuff as well too. So it's definitely huge.
I think everybody knows where I stand on bag committees and these things because it changes constantly. But I think what was really amazing when we did that Pilot's Perspective podcast a few months ago, I believe Matt Johnson, his program, they fly 145. And I think one of the things that he said that just sticks with me every day is every pound matters, And like you said, if you're in a Black Hawk, somebody somewhere would find a way to max that out, and just fill it up. Right. And we do the same thing, but I think it really is that true testament to how each program, when it comes down to it, if every pound matters, right? Can we formulate exactly what we need? Can we kind of plan for those what ifs? We can't plan for everything, but can we kind of plan for some of those off the cuff things that may happen, but then still, do we have the right combination of crew, airframe, pilots, and the equipment? Can we get that and really successfully take care of our mission? And I think what you guys have done at Boston MedFlight is really incredible by taking everybody's input, getting the consortium, like you said, everybody's buy-in. I think is just a true testament to how you guys are out there doing it. And with an incredible airframe and incredible crew, I think you guys are doing a hell of a job, and it shows by just the 30% of the neonate peds alone. That type of orchestrating of that type of sick of patient, that needs ECMO to get where they need to go, I think is just a true testament to what a great program that you guys have up there.
Thank you to our sponsor, Spectrum AeroMed. Spectrum AeroMed is your trusted partner in air medical solutions. Experience safety and innovation with their customized interiors, designed for both rotor and fixed-wing aircraft. Elevate your patient care with Spectrum AeroMed. For more information, visit spectrum-aeromed.com.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Like we said, the management team is amazing here, and it comes from the top down, right? Like you can have the best crew in the world, but air crews in the world, but if you have toxic leadership and all of that stuff, and they're not kind of listening to what the crews are saying, it can really alter like your day to day at work, right? And we've all worked in those situations, but be able to walk in and know that, like, and I mean, one of our COO like works clinical shifts still, so like it's not like so Monday through Friday he's in the office doing stuff, but then he's also coming on the night shift and hopping on and doing something if he didn't work that day. And so he's also able to see firsthand like some of the issues if we are complaining about something, and he also is experiencing it as well too. So the buy-in is awesome from both the clinical crew to the pilots, management team, the maintainers. Like everyone truly buys into the team aspect of it and gets the job done.
And then we've kind of talked about like the onboarding or the training that you guys are doing, and specifically with simulation and whatnot. When, let's say tomorrow I decide I want to come up and work at Boston MedFlight, which, Jen's been trying to get me to come up for a couple of years. And until you guys warm the place up a little bit more, you won't be finding me up there.
I mean, Pennsylvania is not that warm.
That's why I'm planning to move south at some point. However, if I decided that I wanted to take Jen up on this offer, like how long is your onboarding process? Because you have so many different aspects that you need to make sure that somebody is competent and confident in, coming to work at Boston MedFlight. Like how long does that process typically take to get somebody up to speed?
Yeah, the full onboarding process is technically a year, right?
Okay.
But you're released to crew after 16 weeks. So it's 4-week phases. Well, I'd say the first phase is all classroom type stuff. It's a little bit of simulation. Phase 2 is the next where you start being on a vehicle for a little bit. You have some clinical rotation in the hospital where you'll go in the NICU, you go on the PICU, you'll cap up all those things at tertiary hospitals, get your airways in the OR. So again, we could be fully functioning at a program like DART, program like Duke, and come in, you're still getting the same orientation that the person that's been 5 years in the ICU, ER, or on the ambulance is getting, and that's standardized. Again, because just because I did ECMO at Duke doesn't mean the same way here. I mean, I may have had higher volume, if you will, I may have had this or that, but the standardization of how we do it here is important. And I think that's probably the hardest part for folks coming with experience is that, hey, your experience is valuable. You can use that the rest of your career. I need you to know the MedFlight way today. And we really do a good job of driving that home, though it may be annoying to the person going through it at the time, admittedly, right? It's one of those things that's really important. And then, like I said, that phase 5, so after your 16 weeks up to your 1 year, periodic trainings, things you might see are advanced ventilator management. So getting into the worst case scenario, asthma patient that's been intubated, continuous with aerogen, congenital heart defects. So spending time with me, right? Going over crayons, red, purple, blue. Right? How does this work? What's it look like? What's the anatomy? High-speed circulation, right? And then a fair amount of classes as well. So getting through FCCS, right? Getting through all of your other card classes to maintain that happens in that first year. And then again, like I said, it's continuous. Quarterly, you're coming into the OR, regardless if you had 5 intubations or not this quarter, you're still going to the OR. You're going to a SIM, and you're going to have one-on-one quarterly education with an educator with hands-on things, going over, getting touches on the EBD setup, or going over the Impella transport, or setting up the cooling blanket for the Ticotherm in the evening. So a fair amount sustains even well after orientation.
Yeah, I feel like I see you guys on socials all the time. There's always those training posts. Like you guys are always doing some type of training along the way, and I feel like you need that with just the breadth of skill sets that you have across all of those disciplines.
Yeah, and I mean even things like on orientation, doing a mock scene, right? Where like you're not like they will coordinate with a local fire department to say, hey, we're doing this training. And it's the same process for the pilots as well, too, where you have to land at a scene and stay running hot and get used to people running around your aircraft, hopefully not within your rotables. Keep doing those mock scenes and again, going to the buy-in of management and being like, hey, fuel's expensive, sure, but your education and training is more important. So like, we're going to fly you out there and you have to do it. And on your fixed wing day, you're going to fly to Bangor on a training flight where you're just running a sim in the back of the aircraft. Like it takes is a very expensive thing, which still blows my mind to this day that we just do it every 4 months to each new group. But then again, like I said earlier, regardless of your prior experience post probation, you're still a junior provider. So you can still contribute and do all the things, but there's still going to be that population you might have not been that comfortable with. So for the first 3 years, you have a closed matrix. You can only work with someone who's been there longer than 3 years, which I like was mind blowing to me that we've been able to sustain it this long. But and you make it work to make sure that no matter what, you're always getting an experienced crew that's showing up to the bedside of the patient as well too. So it's amazing.
The green on green, yeah, we'll close a base before we'll let 2 juniors work together. We take it that seriously.
Yeah.
There's never like, oh, well, it's, holiday weekend and clinical need and management, needs got needs. It's no, we'll close the base before we allow that, which again is really speaks to how important we take it here.
Yeah, and the pilots and EMTs have 4 months as well too that they're on orientation, so it's not just us. Same there with our prospects and the maintainers. I don't know how long they're training for, but they usually have a senior maintainer next to them as well too. But regardless of your experience as an EMT or experience as a pilot prior to it, you're still going to do the 4-month orientation as well too. You get to know the aircraft and get to know the operations as well too. So no one escapes free.
Yeah, I think that's just a testament to all that you guys do. I mean, you can't. You don't, it's the old adage of, you don't practice until you get it right. You practice until you can't get it wrong. And you got to go through all of those iterations, and you have to make sure that it's a well-oiled machine and that you have the not just the people, but the processes and the products to be able to make that mission possible. And it sounds like you guys are doing an amazing job up there. So appreciate you sharing all that with us.
Well, thanks guys so much for coming on today's show. I can't say thank you enough. You've given me a lot to think about. how lucky and then also jealous that I am. You guys have an incredible program. You have an incredible airframe, and I think that you guys have got the support from all aspects, and I think that that's so great. So again, Jamie, Wid, thank you for giving us that kind of behind the scenes look of what Boston MedFlight does. You guys take care of some incredibly sick patients, and you guys do it with a smile. Yeah. And at least at the get-go, right? 6 hours later, maybe not.
Internally, we're not always smiling, but externally, yeah. Sometimes we miss the days of COVID where the mask could hide your face a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, man, you guys do some great things, and thank you guys so much for sharing your stories and experience with us. And I really think our listeners are going to really enjoy hearing your guys's your perspective on what you guys do every day. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having us. This was fun.
Thank you. It's a real honor. I appreciate it. You've given us the time to talk about our shop. So thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, very much appreciate it. You guys have been amazing guests, and it's always fun to learn about all these different programs that are out there and be able to just find out how it's done in your neck of the woods. And, always respected Boston MedFlight and just what you guys have stood for as a program. And we really appreciate you guys coming and sharing all that with us today. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your time. And we just are so appreciative of your support of the Vertical Helicast platform and continued support of the Valor Flight Crew podcast. So with that, we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Valor Flight Crew podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
Thank you to our sponsor, Spectrum Aeromed. Spectrum Aeromed is your trusted partner in air medical solutions. Experience safety and innovation with their customized interiors, designed for both rotor and fixed-wing aircraft. Elevate your patient care with Spectrum Aeromed. For more information, visit spectrum-aeromed.com. Thanks to our sponsor, Copter Safety. Based in Finland, Copter Safety is the leading, globally approved simulator training center. They provide a full range of courses for AW139, AW169, H125, and H145 pilots. Customize your special missions training with realistic visuals and specialized instructors. Stay one step ahead of reality with copter safety.
Well, that wraps up our conversation with Jamie Eastman and Wid Laterion from Boston MedFlight. A big thank you to both of them for sharing their experience, stories, and perspective on what it takes to deliver critical care at the highest level. It shows that they have an incredible support system from the various healthcare systems in their area, their administration, and all the way down to the flight crews that are on the flight line who support each other day in and day out. This is truly one of the premier and prestigious flight programs in the country. To all our listeners, thanks so much for joining us in this conversation and for your continued support of the Vertical Helicast platform. Whether you're part of a flight crew or just passionate about the world of air medical transport, we hope you found some takeaways to apply on your next shift. And if you haven't already, head on over to www.echoflightcrew.org to learn more about the teams and programs that support this community, and be sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss upcoming episodes. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Valor Flight Crew podcast, where we continue to highlight the people and stories that make this industry great.